Hey friends, how's it going? David Potts here with Song Notes, and in this video I want to answer a few of the questions that a lot of you have sent in from my Patreon page. I have a short list here. I'm going to run through and just do some rapid fire Q&A, and before I get to that though, I want to say I hit 3,000 subscribers on Patreon today. So this is a big thank you from me to all of you who are supporting me and who have supported me in the past through Patreon, and even those of you elsewhere giving support in other ways. It's so appreciated. It really is helpful financially. It helps me fund the gear and the online and the tools and the storage and everything that goes into this project, but also just as a guitarist and someone who wants to help bring music into the world, it means so much that so many of you have found the work I do helpful. So thank you for the support. If you're not a member, I hope you consider joining, and whether you stick around for 1 month or a few or longer, there's a lot of value that I hopefully have made available to you through my video lessons and also through my PDF chord sheets. So speaking of those, let me say that the lesson for this past week was Old Man by Neil Young. This is one a lot of you have asked for. I've done a lot of Neil Young songs. He's one of my favorite guitarists, and I'm really proud of this lesson. It's a longer lesson, but I have nice timestamps to guide you into where you need to go. There's a 5-page PDF to help you learn that Neil Young classic if you're interested in that. But with that said, let's get into these questions and see what I can do to help some of you who have written in here. Okay, so the first one is coming from Doug. So Doug says, David, what lessons would you recommend for the beginner guitarist? So thanks very much for writing in, Doug. So a couple ways to approach answering this. One is know that my lessons as they exist today are not necessarily cataloged and crafted in a way that I don't have a course for new guitarists, or I don't have a whole playlist of videos for a beginner guitarist. I don't have that yet. I would love to get there. I kind of started off just making 1 or 2 videos a week for songs I liked, and maybe I threw a few technique videos here and there. So the result is kind of a long, just big sprawling catalog, and there's no obvious best place to go. But let me say, here's some tips with all this said. So if you go to my website, playsongnotes.com, and if you go to search, one thought is if you go to tips and techniques, you might find just some of these lessons. Some of these are going to be a bit more beginner friendly. You just have to kind of browse around and see what captures your ear. Some of these though will be a bit more for advanced topics as well, right? But there is my search page. If you're interested in my lessons, go to my website. Just look along. The play along covers are a great way to basically get a song, and then you see me basically play it with the lyrics on the screen. That can be helpful when you're learning. So now with this said though, I want to recommend my guitar hero, who is Justin Sanderco. So if you go to justinguitar.com, let's go to the home page here. Now he does a great job of categorizing his lessons. So if you go to beginner lessons, grade 1, he has things just basically mapped out. So there's a bit more of a sequence to go through things. So check his out. His website is great. It's well organized, and things are hopefully surrounded by related things. So I gotta give a shout out to Justin here. So I hope that helps, Doug. In the future, again, I do want to categorize my lessons a bit better, but for now, I hope this was helpful. Okay, so the second question here is from Becky. So Becky writes in asking me if I'm using my thumb to mute the strings that aren't in the chord. So Becky, yes I am, and here is a close-up to talk about what's going on here. So what Becky's asking about is she commented on a video where I was going between a C and a C over B and an A minor down to a G, right? So those first 3 chords, I'm never playing the 6th string, right? So C, I'm sort of walking down the bass note on the 5th string, and the whole time, what I am doing is, yes, I am using my thumb. I'm just sort of lightly bumping it into this thick string, because if you do that, it kills the sound, it deadens the sound. And why this matters is when you're playing a C chord, for example, you only want to strum the thinnest 5 strings, but if you mess up and accidentally hit that 6th string, it can kind of muddy the sound, and we don't want that. What we want to do is sort of preserve just the 5 strings that we want to hear. Now, if you put your thumb there and you were to strum all 6 strings, you're just going to get a muffled sort of string pluck there, which isn't that bad, right? So this lets you be a bit more loose and sloppy and casual with your strumming hand because the thumb is muting that 6th string. So this is usually used on chords that have just 5 strings, like a C chord, right? The C over B, or the G over B, right? An A minor, and then even like a B7. But yes, muting strings is a very helpful trick, whether you're using your thumb to do it, like I talked about, or if you're doing a like the F chord that uses the middle 4 strings, 3, 3, 2, 1, as far as the frets, right? I'm not playing the thickest string or the thinnest string, and I'll typically mute the thinnest string with this finger right here. Right? Second string is first fret, but the first string is muted. And you combine that with this. I am only pushing down on the middle 4 strings, but the thickest and thinnest strings are not making sounds because I'm muting them, and that makes strumming a lot easier. So that's the answer. Yes, it is a technique, and maybe I'll do a separate video on this with a bit more of a visualizations prepared. Okay, so I hope that helped you, Becky. Next one, let's look at perfecting up-strums. So this one came in from Andy. Andy said, I really enjoy your lessons, and my guitar playing has improved a lot. Thank you so much for saying that, Andy. That makes me very happy to hear. So one of the things I find tricky is getting my up-strums right. I keep wanting to change the orientation of my hand to the strings, and I notice that you don't do that at all, and you make it look frustratingly easy. Anyway, I was wondering, amongst your requests, if you could do some quick lessons on perfecting up-strums. So this is one of those videos I've like, yeah, I'll do that, and I've said that for the last 2 years. So I'm going to do a quick, like, 2-minute version here of my thoughts on up-strumming. So it is definitely tricky. A couple thoughts. Number one. First of all, when you are up-strumming, so say we have a D chord. Let's use a G chord, actually, because that's all 6 strings. Now, you can up-strum all the strings, but when you're learning, it can be a bit harsh, a bit much, right? So what I recommend doing for your up-strums is just worry about the thinnest 2 or 3 strings. Make it much more of a brush on the strings, right? A lighter brush as compared to a thick rake that's equally thick going up and down, because that's gonna just sound harsher, and that's lots of times that's not the sound you want. So again, just brush those thinnest couple strings. That's a general tip number one. Number two is I think your instinct is correct to lighten the sound by rotating your hand. But instead of rotating your hand, I think if you can try to focus on your fingers, right, how you're grabbing the pick. And this is tricky, but one tip here to try out is to carry a pick with you when you're not playing guitar. And just, if you can find a few moments in your day, if you're at a red light or something like that, get the pick out and just try either like on your fingers or on your shirt or on your pants. Get used to just, like this is an exercise for your right hand, the hand that holds the pick. Get used to just rubbing the pick down and up on things. Because what this is going to do is it's going to teach you where are your limits with regard to how tight you need to hold this and how loose you can get away with holding it, right? I think the ideal is to hold it as loosely as possible, but without dropping it. And that's tricky. There's a bit of a balancing act there. And you'll drop it sometimes at first, but this is a helpful thing. Just do constant up and down strums. And focus on your right hand that's grabbing the pick, right? Like how much can you sort of get used to just the pick itself and kind of letting it really kind of keeping your fingers kind of still, but adjusting them so that you can sort of let the pick be a bit more fluid. You want it to almost feel like water in a certain way, instead of being a rigid rock, right? You don't want to do that. So work on loosening that up. Now it's really easy for me to say, but that's a tip I would recommend. Is just carrying a pick with you can go a very long way. And I'll keep in mind doing a general lesson on up-strums in general. So I hope that helped, Andy. One other question that came in, which reminded me of that one. So Brian writes in asking about 3-count. Beats that are rhythms that are broken into chunks of 3 and 5. So he was asking about Learning to Fly, which is a Tom Petty lesson I did, and I had put out a new PDF for that one recently. So that whole song is the progression of F, right, to C, to A minor, to G. The whole song uses those 4 chords. And the trick is, instead of doing 4 counts on each chord, which is kind of the norm, you're going to do 3 counts on the F, 1, 2, 3, and then do 5 counts on the C, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you do it from an A minor to a G, following the same tempo, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in Brian's question here, he mentioned that he finds it tricky to stay on that sort of 3 and 5, those pulses, because your brain kind of wants to revert to the 4 counts for everything, right? This is 4 counts for everything, but if you did the 3 and 5, it would be. So you're kind of going to that second chord and that fourth chord like earlier than you kind of want to. Now here's the tip I would give you. Same thing. Carry the pick with you, and whether you're at a red light, you're on the couch, you're doing whatever, find ways where you can almost like hear that song in your head and do the counting. And even if you have your guitar, you can mute the strings and do a sort of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even if you just worry about counting to 3 and then counting to 5, but keeping a tempo, right? And then doing a strum just on the 1 count. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will go a long way, I think. And another tip is to put the song on and listen along. And even if you're just tapping your leg, you don't need a pick necessarily. You just want to get the sort of muscles in your right hand to like get that pulse to be a bit unconscious, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then from there, what's going to happen is if you can get those 2 foundational pulses, you can sort of add in the other down strums, right? The 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get comfortable with that. And then from there, obviously, there's the there's other stuff you can do involving your left hand, but that's tricky if you're learning that stuff in addition to learning the chord changes, in addition to doing learning the pulses. So focus on one thing at a time. Just carry the pick with you if you can, or if you don't have a pick, just practice using your hand on your thigh, your pant leg, your shirt, your desk, your steering wheel. Like find places to just practice your basic hand rhythm training with regard to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to be able to do it unconsciously. So I hope that helps, Brian. That's my quick thought there. I hope that's helpful for you. And then the last one I want to answer here is from Jay. Jay writes in, loving your lessons, looking like you're closing in on 3,000 patrons. Yes, thank you, Jay. I hit it today. So Jay says, I want to learn to put my finger picking patterns and song ideas on paper like you do so well in your PDFs. I've learned a lot looking at your sheets. Any suggestions on templates to download or to print blank pages, etc.? I don't have anything available on my site, but that's a great idea, and I would love to do that because I actually have a few templates that are in my on my iPad, but they're kind of sloppy, and I would want to do a quick pass. So I'm going to try to get something up soon on my website. But in the meantime, check this out. If you go to, again, justinguitar.com, and you go to Tools, and you go to Blank Papers, he has a section here, blank neck diagrams, blank tab paper, blank manuscript paper. Check these out. These are awesome. I've used these in the past, and it's awesome what Justin does in general. And you can sort of have these. You can print them out, and these are for learning chords again. But if you want to do some tab stuff, he has those as well. I think like right here. So click right here, and then you get these, print them out, and yeah, it's super helpful. So I do a lot of stuff on the iPad, but I actually do a lot of stuff written down on paper too, because that's usually the quickest, fastest way to get the initial stuff down when you're initially learning. So I would recommend Justin Guitar for this right now. In the long run, though, I want to create some of these myself because I'm already doing it. It would be great to share, and hopefully that would help you out, Jay. So hope that helps in the meantime. And that's going to be it for the questions today. Thank you all very much for watching. Thanks for the support on Patreon. From those of you who are supporting me, it is so helpful. And I'm going to take off now. Again, check out Old Man. It's the newest PDF I've put out there, lesson 328. I am quite proud of it, and I hope you're doing well. Hope you have a good weekend and a good week ahead. So I'll see you all around, my friends. Take care, and bye-bye.